Okay, the December 9th meeting of the Greenwich Township Land Use Board is called to order.
This is the regular meeting of the Land Use Board of the Township of Greenwich. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, in that a notice was published in the Express Times and Star Ledger newspaper. Notice was posted on the municipal bulletin board in the Township Administration Building in Greenwich Township, New Jersey, and notice was filed with the Township Clerk.
Okay, roll call.
Land Use Board Chairman, Mr. Bruce Williams.
Here.
Vice Chairman, Mr. Mark Scuderi, asked to be absent or asked to be excused tonight. Mr. Paul Bean.
Here.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo.
Here.
Mr. Frank Marqueta.
Here.
Mr. Bill Kenya.
Here.
Ms. Kathy Cullen.
Here.
Mr. Gary Hill.
He's on.
I see your name, but we're not hearing you, Gary.
For now, since we don't see him and we don't hear him, for now, he's not here. We'll see if he, there he is. Nope, that's Mike Finelli. We'll see if he weighs in later.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Joseph Fiamma.
Here.
Miss Andrea Sherlaw.
Here.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt.
Here.
Miss Pam Peslis.
Here.
And Mr. Rocky Stein.
Here.
Board Attorney, Mr. John Drill.
Here,
Engineer, Mr. Mike Finelli.
Here.
Board Planner, Miss Kendra Lely.
We excused this. Okay, let's all rise for the flag salute. Those of us who have a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bruce, you want to make a motion to excuse Mark Scuderi?
Was it just Mark?
It is just Mark and possibly Gary.
Well, why don't you, just to play it safe, why don't you make a motion to exclude Gary also, to excuse him also, and if he comes in, then you can mark him present.
Okay, I'd like a motion to excuse Mark Scuderi and Gary Hill.
Make the motion.
Jeremy, second. Joe Fiamma.
Chair, Mr. Bruce Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Paul Bean.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo.
Yes.
Frank Marqueta.
Yes.
Mr. Bill Kenya.
Yes.
Ms. Kathy Cullen.
Yes.
Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Ms. Andrea Sherlaw.
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt.
Yes.
Ms. Pam Peslis.
Yes.
Mr. Rocky Stein.
Yes.
Okay, now you may recall that last month we passed out copies of the minutes of the executive session, and we voted and we approved those minutes. We did not collect them back, but as you know, there wasn't much to them. So what I'd like to do at this point in time is to vote to make those minutes public, which is something we can do. So I'll make a motion to make the executive session minutes of October 14th public. I need a second.
I'll second.
Chair, Mr. Bruce Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Paul Bean.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo.
Yes.
Mr. Bill Kenya.
Yes.
Ms. Kathy Cullen.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Hill is absent, and Ms. Andrea Sherlaw.
Yes.
Okay, should have all received the minutes for last month's meeting. Are there any comments regarding those minutes? Comments, corrections? If not, I'll make a motion.
I do.
to-
Bruce,
Yep.
you see me? I noticed that on motions where we were all in agreement, there was a clause that said, that basically said that everyone eligible was an affirmative vote. But on the couple that we weren't all in agreement, shouldn't we be iterating the names, the yeas and nays?
I believe we should.
And that was for the Target Corporation. I can change that.
No, this,
That was at least, yeah.
yeah, so there were,
Everybody else, it was unanimous, and then the Target, there were 2 names.
right, that was myself and,
Kathy Cullen and Bruce voted no, I believe, on Target. And Joe is correct that the minutes should reflect the voting.
Like the 2 names. Okay, I can change that.
good catch.
You can adopt these as amended,
As
saying
amended,
that you're going to make that change. You don't have to put them off until January.
yeah. Any other comments or changes? Then I accept the motion to adopt the minutes as amended to include Kathy Cullen and myself as no votes on the Target application.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Second. Joe, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chair, Mr. Bruce Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Scuderi is absent tonight. Mr. Paul Bean.
Yes.
Joseph Chapello.
yes.
Mr. Frank Marqueta.
Yes.
Bill Kenya.
Yes.
Ms. Kathy Cullen.
Yes.
Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Ms. Andrea Sherlow.
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt.
Yes.
And Ms. Pam Hesless.
Yes.
Okay. Correspondence. Frank, you sent me an email and I guess I want to ask you, is this an official email? If so, we should read this into the record because you sent it to myself and to the land use and to John.
I guess, yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay, so I received an email from Frank Marqueta entitled Warehouse Crisis. I'm going to read that into the record.
Well, what date? What date is it?
The date is, of the email was December 5th, 2021. Okay, Bruce, the township is in crisis right now with warehousing from surrounding townships causing big issues with trucks in our area. They are using our business lots as truck stops and illegally using our roads. I would like to put on our agenda a discussion on some possible zoning modifications that can help. We are also seeing an issue where there is panhandling going on at some locations with people holding signs up and asking for money. I have some ideas on a couple of zoning changes that I'd like to discuss. Can you add to the agenda for a meeting where we can have a full board or close to it? Could do in January. I also want to have an update on warehousing, give an update on warehousing being built in our area. So that's just read into the record here. Frank, is this a request from you or from the township committee?
For me,
Okay. I would think that if we were going to take up these subjects, to consider ordinances for the trucks, for example, that we would need some professionals to help us out on this, certainly an attorney, possibly a planner, maybe even a traffic engineer. Is the township committee willing to, fund us for that work?
well, we don't need to, why don't we just brainstorm first? And if we all come up with some good ideas, then we could approach the town and see if we want to implement them. But I'm just thinking that we need to start discussing it as a group on what we think we can do to alleviate the problem. So I don't think we need to get to the point where, the professionals will be at the meeting, so they could weigh in at the meeting. I don't think we need special funding at this point. It was just really a brainstorming and to see, we got to start thinking out of the box, because I don't know if everybody's aware, but we're probably at maximum 30% capacity of what the future build out's going to be. And we're seeing some big issues already, and we have a warehouse in the neighboring town that's going above and beyond what we think that they said that they would have truck traffic as. So if we don't address this issue now, it's only going to get worse. And it could, it may be harder to address in the future. So it was really just a brainstorming session to see if we want to come up with some ideas.
I don't disagree with the concern at all. I mean, ordinances are generally the purview of the township committee.
Well, just like we brainstormed we had discussions on, right? Remember the solar paneling discussion, we're not wanting it on the front, and then we made recommendations to the town committee. So I was thinking we could do the same thing with this. We discuss it, we make a recommendation.
Well,
Town
my
committee decides.
reflection of that one, maybe John could help it. We actually received an official request from the township committee for us to review an ordinance that I think they had already basically put together. We didn't create the ordinance.
No, but I thought you had made a recommendation to the town committee to not allow on the front. Listen, if you don't think it's worthwhile doing here, I could take it up on the town committee side. That's fine. I just thought it would be a good idea for this group to do it, but that's fine with me. I could take it up on the town committee.
All right, I'd feel more comfortable, and board members, you can certainly tell me, I'd feel more comfortable if it came to us as a request from the township committee to review it. With the understanding that, I mean, we can brainstorm a little bit, but I don't think we're going to get very far before we have to start employing some professionals. And the township committee should understand that.
Okay, that's fine. I have a bunch of things on our next agenda that we're going to discuss anyway, so we could do it that way. But how do you feel about just giving everybody an update as to the build out and where the future warehouses are proposed and things like that? Just to do-
Absolutely. That's something you want to do now, or you want to do schedule?
No, I'm not prepared to do it now. We could do it in January. That's okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take it up at the town committee and I'll get back to you.
Okay. So our next item of business is adoption of resolutions. Resolution 2021-03, Target Corporation. This was the resolution you did last month, final site plan and reconfiguration of parking stalls, drive-up stalls, restriping, and so on. Any questions about?
Bruce, so for the record, this is the resolution, when you upper left-hand corner, it's dated December 7, 2021, and it's version 2. And everyone can talk about it, but the people that can vote on it are Scudera, Beam, Chichella, Marqueta, Cognac, Fiamma, and Sherlaw.
Only those who have voted to approve it.
Right.
I just had one small change on page 11 and 12. I believe Mark's last name is Scuderi and should have an I, not an A.
Okay, that's a good one.
I can change that if we approve
Yep,
it tonight. I'll
yep.
change.
Good eyes. Not to prolong this, but hearing nothing else, does someone want to move to adopt this?
I'm getting there. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Jeff.
Roll call.
Okay, so Mr. Mark Scuderi is absent tonight. Mr. Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chupello,
Yes.
Mr. Frank Marqueta,
Yes,
Bill Kenya,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
and Miss Andrea Sherlaw.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Next items. So there's nothing new in the master plan reexamination. As you may recall from last month, we've asked Kendra to come in January with a draft report. We're supposed to have that all approved and done by February. So the other thing is, and we haven't done this in quite a long time, is one of the functions of the actually of the Board of Adjustment, of which this is part of our board, is to essentially do an annual report where you make recommendations to the planning board and to the township committee for changes you might suggest in, in zoning or in procedures or something like that. The only time I can remember doing this was years ago when we were getting so many applications for decks that didn't meet the setback requirements in Greenwich Chase and the small
Actually,
lots.
Bruce, when we had a Board of Adjustment and a separate planning board, ever since I was the Board of Adjustment attorney, it was done every year. Once the Board of Adjustment was dissolved and the planning board was converted into a joint planning board with the powers of the Board of Adjustment, it stopped. You can do it. The theory behind the Board of Adjustment doing it was they would hear a lot of the variance cases and they would report to the planning board and the township committee about provisions that had a lot of variances and recommendations, if any, to change the ordinance. But I don't see any problem whatsoever with the land use board doing one to the governing body.
So that's what it is. So it's really out there as a question of, is there anything that we would want to report to the township committee, recommended changes that should be made?
Bruce, isn't that the nature of what Frank posed a few minutes ago?
Now, Frank was suggesting a specific area. What Bruce is saying is, let me just read from the MLUL what it says about the annual report. It says the Board of Adjustment shall at least once a year review its decisions on applications and appeals for variances and prepare and adopt by a resolution a report on its finding of zoning ordinances provisions which were the subject of variance requests and its recommendations for zoning ordinance amendment or revision, if any. This is a report based on what the board heard in the last year and whether there's any recommendations. Frank is making a suggestion for the board to act in its capacity as a planning board to brainstorm and make recommendations to the governing body. What Bruce is talking about is this annual report, reporting on, based on what the board did in the last year, do they have any recommendations?
Got it. Okay.
So like I said, the one that I can recall was when we were approving, had many applications for decks in Greenwich Chase that were all violating the setback requirements. And so we made a recommendation that basically the setbacks or that some exclusion be changed there.
I think
So
you guys also made a recommendation when you were a BOA about solar panels. I think that ordinance was changed, and you may have made a recommendation about cell towers, but I don't think that was ever changed. In other words, they didn't agree with your recommendation on that. That's just based on my recollection. I haven't looked at this.
Any thoughts? I wasn't expecting much, but
Well, nothing's come up based on the last year.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
not much
I wanted to go
time.
through the process and I can't think of anything.
I can
Okay,
still do a report if you want of like a summary of the cases that the board heard.
Bruce, it might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Amy to go through, make a list of things, and maybe when you see
Exactly.
them, maybe someone will think about something, or you submit the list and say, here, this is what we did in the last year. We don't recommend changing the ordinance based on what we did in the last year.
Okay,
can you pull together what you?
I can absolutely do that, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because,
All right.
Yeah, correct. Amy's done this for her other Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
And they have a very long list. Ours will be easy.
All right, so the last thing, well, let's see. I don't believe there's any COA update, is there, John?
No, unless if people have questions, but I don't have any update.
Okay. Escrows, you should have just gotten in the email just before we left, before you came here. The summary of the escrow accounts. We have some shortages. I presume that because this has been done, that she's now requesting.
She is, yeah, she's pretty good about requesting. She said she was gonna get to it, I think tomorrow, to reach out to these two that are in arrears.
Well, one of them wasn't Target, was it?
One of them is,
No.
yeah, one of them is.
Not
Target.
the drive up expansion.
What's that?
No, the drive up here is. They're in the arrears.
Okay,
Wait, if they're in arrears, then even though the resolution's been adopted, the board, in my opinion, should direct Amy not to release the resolution until they pay it up. And for her to tell them that basically in a nice way, we're holding it hostage.
Yeah, and John, I would presume that your bill for the preparing the resolution is probably not in here yet.
Correct. I always go last. When there's money owed, I'm always the last one to get paid, and I have generally the problem, and Mike Finelli generally is the designated guy to call up the person and get the money, but in this situation, Amy can call and hold the resolution hostage.
we voted, but I won't sign it until Susan tells me that they're good.
Yeah,
we
what,
need to-
why don't, Bruce, have the board tell her that so she has backing, so it's not just her? You know, make a
Yeah, well, so-
motion, to tell- not to sign the resolution and not to send it out and not to arrange for publication of its adoption until the escrow's been paid up.
So I'll make a motion that Amy not sign or send out the target resolution until the escrow has been brought up to date.
Second.
Second from Jeremy.
Am I only calling names that voted on the target resolution, or do I just call anyone that's here tonight?
This could be everybody.
Okay.
This is a business matter. This is not on that application.
Board Chair, Mr. Bruce Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Paul Bean,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Chicala,
Yes.
Mr. Frank Marqueta.
Frank?
He's.
Oh, he's
Frank's, muted.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Mr. Bill Kenyak,
Yes.
Ms. Kathy Cullen,
Yes.
Sophia,
Yes.
Ms. Andrea Sherlock,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Ms. Pam Teslis,
Yes.
Mr. Rocky Steinhardt.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's everything. We had the reorganization meeting January 13th. And if no one has anything else, then I'll ask for the motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We roll call for that?
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain, all right. Thanks. Have a great holiday, Christmas, and we'll see
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Happy New Year.
See you guys tomorrow.
Happy
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Same.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yep.
Who else was short?
Who else was short?
No, yes, I didn't get the, I just saw, I can't read on my phone.
No,
They were-
I wouldn't think so.
Well,